Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel in the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, a magnitude 6.9 quake that hit the city of Bugo in Cebu has reportedly killed over 20 people. Authorities are still assessing the extent of casualties and damage from this powerful tremor.
Jesus, Jesus, no, oh my God, Lord Jesus Christ. Lang, naglinog lang, Lord Jesus Christ. Yes, makatras ka pa. Dili na.
AirAsia resumes direct flights between Kuala Lumpur and Cebu starting November 15, reviving the link to the Queen City of the South. We speak with First Officer Steve Dailisan, Head of Communications and Corporate Affairs at AirAsia Philippines, live in studio. And the Philippine Purchasing Managers Index for September has come in at 49.9. That is lower than the August figure of 50.8, and a number above 50 signals expansion and below it, contraction. Jingyi Pan of S&P Global Market Intelligence joins us live from Singapore. Over 20 people are reported dead after a powerful magnitude 6.9 quake hit Cebu last night. You're looking at a dashcam video taken from Marcelo Fernan Bridge that separates the cities of Mandaue and Lapu-Lapu. You could see traversing motorcycles falling down due to the quake. In this CCTV footage, residents from Barangay Sawang, Salero in Cebu City ran during the earthquake, while others just hugged in the middle of the road. The gala night of the Miss Asia Pacific International at a hotel in Cebu City was also interrupted by the quake. Guests hid under the table as candidates hopped off the runway. Even churches have not been spared. Portions of Saints Peter and Paul churches in Bantayan Island collapsed. NDRRMC's latest report shows 26 people are dead, while 147 have been injured. These figures are undergoing validation. The extent of the damage is just starting to be seen. In the city of Bugo, establishments and roads have sustained damage. Bugo was the epicenter of the magnitude 6.9 quake that struck almost 10 p.m. on Tuesday night, according to PHIVOX. As of 4 a.m., the Bureau recorded 379 aftershocks. It also warned of minor sea level disturbance along coastal areas in Leyte, Cebu, and Biliran. Intensity 7 was recorded in Bugo City and 4 other Cebu towns, which means the shaking felt was destructive. Meanwhile, Intensity 6, characterized by very strong shaking, was reported in Cebu City and 6 other areas. Some areas in Cebu have been placed under a state of calamity following the earthquake. The San Remigio local government said it is mobilizing resources, providing assistance to affected communities, and implementing measures to prevent further harm. Bugo City and other areas in Cebu's 6th district have also been placed under a state of calamity. Cebu Governor Pam Baricuatro has urged residents to stay calm and follow safety precautions.
I know hadlok siya, but please stay calm and move to open areas. Keep away from walls or structures that may collapse and stay alert for aftershocks. I have instructed our teams on the ground to assess the situation, and we are now coordinating with the mayors and DRRM officers. Let's keep each other safe.
Meanwhile, classes at all levels have been suspended in multiple areas across Cebu, including Santa Fe, Cebu City, Lapu-Lapu, Mandaue, and Bugo, among others. These are now flashed on your screen. Classes also suspended in parts of Bohol, Iloilo, Samar, and Negros Occidental. And let's get an update from a resident of San Remigio, Cebu, a town just west of the epicenter in Bugo City. Joining us is Luis Chito Cusi, the disaster coordinator at March for Christ. Maayong buntag, Chito. Kamusta kayo riyan?
Mabuti naman. Correction, I'm in Cebu City, not San Rem.
Okay, so nung naganap yung earthquake, nasa Cebu City po kayo. So
Yes,
gaano po kalakas?
Oh, it was strong. I mean, it was strong and long. Very traumatic. Cathy.
And your
And
family members, your friends and neighbors all accounted for so far, sir?
yes, right. An avalanche of concern and messages from people, but everybody's okay here in the city. It's just north of Cebu that most of the damage has been caused, where most of the deaths and injuries and collapse of houses took place.
Right. What more do we know, sir, about the northern part of Cebu, specific to that sa San Remigio, where you're going to in a couple of hours?
There are main roads going to North Cebu on the western side and then on the eastern side. I understand from people who are in their beach houses in San Rem that they cannot come back to Cebu because the roads are impossible. There's a bridge in Tuburan that I think is destroyed. On the eastern side, there's a bridge in Sogod that was suspect, but recently I found out that one of our people who went home to Bogo this morning has gone beyond that bridge. He said that it is now passable. They're allowing four-wheeled vehicles to pass it, and hopefully he'll be able to reach Bogo. And we're trying to get more updates because we'd like to know how we can, how our travel will be this after lunch going there.
So ano po mga pangangailangan sa relief work po sa Bogo?
Well, right now, sabi nila is water, tents, and solar lights. You know, people are afraid and panicking. They don't like to stay inside their houses. As you know, sa mga mahihirap, their houses are, medyo substandard, medyo hindi pa tapos, partially completed. So, the walls are shaky, the ceilings are not holding the walls and all that. So, delikado talaga, and they'd like to stay out, so they need the tent, and there's no power, so solar light.
Okay, so ingat po sa inyong pagpunta sa Bogo. Salamat na marami for the update to Luis Chito Cusi, the disaster coordinator at March for Christ in Cebu City. And still from the town of San Remigio in Cebu, we now speak with Mayor Mariano Martinez. Maayong buntag po, Mayor. Kamusta na po kayo dyan?
My buntag also, Miss Yang, right? Oh, yeah, my buntag, right. We're holding.
How are things there sa inyong community po? Kamusta ang sitwasyon? May mga casualties po ba?
Yes, actually, the sad news is our casualties are growing. As of 9 a.m. this morning, it has already reached 11. And we've also have about 9 people who are injured. So 9 casualties, 11 casualties, and 9 people injured. That's a latest count.
Okay, so ano po ang ginagawa natin para po matulungan yung mga survivors po at yung mga presumably trapped inside rubble?
That's the thing there. Right now, that's our main concern. It's retrieval of casualties. Our municipality is relatively rural, and so it's only now that we're finding out that we have also casualties in the barangays. And so we're getting these reports, and we're also making sure of the people that are injured be brought to the proper hospitals to be treated.
So sa mga gusto pong tumulong, saan po sila pwedeng tumawag?
Well, right now, our closest hospital is in Bogo City. And so they're the ones swarmed with injuries, people with injuries. And so those that want to help medically, I think that's the place to help. Aside from that, we lack a little logistics, small things, tables, tents, because we're starting to receive some relief goods, and it's difficult to store all of them because some of our storage facilities, the ones that we had initially, has also been destroyed, and so we're in need of tents.
Okay, well, salamat po
And
sa initial update. And
yes.
continue to keep us up to speed. Mayor Mariano Martinez of San Remigio, ingat po sila. In other news, the Philippine manufacturing sector slows in September with output and new orders contracting for the first time in 6 months. S&P Global reports the country's manufacturing PMI inched down to 49.9, falling below the 50 mark that separates expansion from contraction. This follows readings of 50.8 in August and 50.9 in July, indicating a gradual downtrend over the past 3 months. The decline reflects lower domestic sales, adverse weather, and rising import restrictions, though export orders remain stable. Manufacturers scaled back production, ending a 3-month run of expansion. Purchases of raw materials continue modestly, and inventories of finished goods fall as companies work through backlogs. Cost pressures ease slightly from August, but remain among the highest recorded this year. Overall, the PMI data point to domestic demand as the main driver of the sector's recent weakness. The S&P Global Philippines manufacturing PMI at 49.9 after edging down to 50.8 in August. And that's coming from a 3-month peak of 50.9 in the previous month. Well, with us now to break down the data, Jingy Pan, Economics Associate at S&P Global Market Intelligence, live from Singapore. Good to see you again, Jingy. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Cathy. Thanks for having me.
All right, so that's a level below 50 now. So how did this September PMI pan out?
Well, certainly, as you said, this is the first time we've seen a below 50 mark, although it's only marginally so since March, and the third time in over 4 years, really highlighting how rare perhaps we've been seeing a sub 50 print itself, which points generally to contraction. As you already mentioned, we did see this itself really originating from the fact that demand weakness, domestic demand weakness was quite prominent to the end of September. We do see some of this potentially being temporary factors. As you mentioned, weather disruptions was something that we highlighted quite prominently coming through from comments. But also at the same time, I think there's just a general record of lower new orders at the end of, well, the third quarter itself. And that's given rise to the first fall in manufacturing production in 4 months based on our records. With that being said, however, I think we also do see some of these positive factors. While we had certainly purchases that's still increasing, albeit at a slower pace. And some of the comments coming through is also the fact that there are still expectations that the future output will actually continue rising. Indeed, even though the future output index, which is our only sentiment-based PMI indicator, that fell from August, but it's still the second highest we've seen so far this year. So I think generally manufacturers are perhaps seeing this at what is maybe a temporary dip below the 50 mark and are looking, however.
Could that temporary situation actually emanate from the fact that a lot of the manufacturers are starting to stop front-loading those purchases because Trump's 19% tariffs have already come into play, and that's been in effect for 2 months now? And what impact would that have going forward on PMI?
Well, certainly, Cathy. I think the fact is also that new export orders, as you just mentioned, that we have seen it being steady in September. So a lot of this weakness are certainly domestic driven. But you have a point certainly there as well, because it is an ecosystem, it's a supply chain, and how is that affecting the domestic market? If we take just a little bit of a step back and look at all the other PMI that has been released for the Asian region so far, you are certainly getting quite a bit of mixed picture. August, it is undeniable that we're still seeing some of this front loading across the APAC region. But into September, I think it's starting to show. You have some North Asian economies, including the likes of mainland China and also South Korea. Those are still showing growth and better growth perhaps for September, whereas the likes of, well, Japan and also Taiwan, these are coming under a bit of pressure. ASEAN growing as a whole on the manufacturing side, but mainly actually being supported by the likes of Taiwan and also I should say Thailand and Singapore. So I think a common theme perhaps here is really with these economies that are similarly doing well, have a lot of this new product rollout, but the ones who are not doing well are starting to tell us that the US tariff impact is starting to kick in, and certainly for the Philippines economy, I think they are seeing some of the secondary effect as well on demand, domestic demand, that could still.
Ms. Jingyi, September was also a month that the Philippines saw corruption allegations unfold on the anomalous flood control projects. Did that, or is that in any way introducing a level of uncertainty, perceived or otherwise, that's now shown up in the September data?
Well, from what we're seeing, definitely the flooding itself, not perhaps the allegation, the flooding itself had an effect certainly on production. But if you look at the future output index, as I mentioned, the only sentiment index, that had actually only declined slightly, still the second highest since last November. So you are getting the optimism still sustaining among manufacturers that things will actually improve in the next 12 months. So I don't think that's perhaps setting in so much. But certainly, I think, we have to take into account as well what you just mentioned with the earthquake and how that's going to affect things in the next couple of months. I think that's going to play a big factor for sure.
And before you go, Jingyi, your initial thoughts on Cebu's quake, a big temblor there on the impact it may have on PMI going forward. Cebu accounting for 3.5% of Philippine GDP. What impact might it have on PMI going forward?
Well, first of all, I just want to say sorry for the situation. I certainly hope anyone who requires help will receive it as soon as possible. But taking a big picture outlook, I think definitely the impact itself is expected to be a bit of shock as we typically see with such situations. And also, as you just mentioned, Cebu is a manufacturing hub, and as well, electronics sector has been a key sector over there. So that could actually dampen the picture going forward based on initial potential assessment here. But of course, what's also important is how fast these help step in to actually remedy the situation. Of course, it also depends on how bad perhaps some of the infrastructure will be affected, because we know there's also transportation around the region that's very key, centered in that region. So I think, it is going to be an immediate shock that we're seeing. But if we do have a lot of this step up in terms of the support to repair the situation, I think that's going to shorten the period that the impact will be seen in the upcoming PMI numbers. Cathy.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your insights. I much appreciate Jingyi Pan of S&P Global Market Intelligence in Singapore. And you're watching Money Talks. Coming up, AirAsia resumes direct flights from Malaysia to Cebu. AirAsia Communications and Corporate Affairs Head Steve Dailisan will give us updates. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. On the lookout for a positive catalyst, corruption issues weighing on sentiment. On Tuesday, Philippine stocks are down a 7th straight session, and the peso also ended at 58.22 to the dollar. September, a bruising month for stock market investors as corruption allegations and government flood control projects dug deep. As of end September, the local market is down by 3.28% month on month. Year to date, the local market has lost 8.8%. Note that a big chunk, or 6.6% of this, was sustained from after the president's July 28 State of the Nation address, when he started to call out corrupt practices, which then led to the naming of anomalous flood control projects and from where the investigations ensued. The lack of a positive catalyst led to the stock market's decline on Tuesday for a 7th straight session, the longest run of decline since December 2024, and marking its lowest close since April 7. The local market underperformed most Asian peers as corruption allegations and government officials continued to dampen sentiment and triggered foreign outflows. Meanwhile, the peso has depreciated against the US dollar by 1.9% month on month, a big part of that sustained from after SONA. Year to date, the peso has depreciated only by less than 1/4%. As for the 10-year Treasury yield, it is up month on month, but down compared to from July 28 SONA level and down year to date. Let's take a look at our own market, see how it's trading so far. PSEI opening this Wednesday slightly lower by less than 0.1%, 5,951, logging in an 8th straight session of declines, at least at the open. Stock market is on a downward spiral for the 8th straight session, declining by 0.75% due to corruption issues weighing on sentiment and a lack of positive catalysts adding to the market's decline, according to analysts. The broader all shares index slipped by 0.4%, with most local counters in the red. As for the Philippine peso, it opens today weaker, 58.40 to the dollar. Peso closed a tad weaker at 58.196 against the greenback. And the 10-year government bond yields posted a downtick at 6.033%. After a decade-long absence, the familiar red and white livery of AirAsia will return to Cebu's skies. The Malaysia-based airline resumes its direct flights between Kuala Lumpur and Cebu starting November 15. With us now for more is First Officer Steve Dailisan, Head of Corporate Communications and Corporate Affairs at AirAsia. Good to see you again, Steve.
Nice to see you again,
to
Cathy.
the program.
Thanks for having me.
So first off, I know you've got staff in Cebu. How are things going? How are they? And what's the situation with the flights going to Cebu from Manila?
First of all, looking at the photos and videos, to say that the situation is a bit of traumatic for the rest of our Cebuano brothers and sisters is an understatement to begin with. But that's why we sincerely empathize with them. The first thing that we did is to check on our staff. Safety is a priority for us at AirAsia. Last night, there was a temporary suspension of operations at the Mactan Cebu International Airport. But thankfully, after evacuating the passengers and the staff at around 11 p.m., the normal operations resumed when they finished checking the runway and, of course, the taxiways. As we speak, Cathy, we were told by our safety team that the safety checks is still ongoing to ensure that everyone is safe because we still don't know if there will be aftershocks.
So what does that mean then for your flight operations? You fly 6 or 7 flights a day?
Correct.
From Manila to Cebu?
From Manila to Cebu, we fly about 40 to 50 weekly flights. That's 6 to 7 flights daily.
And what now for the passengers that have been disrupted as they await for their next flight schedule?
Thankfully, Cathy, there were only 2 flights affected by delays due to the temporary suspension at the airport. But insofar as our flights is concerned today, it's back to normal.
Okay, and what intention is there for AirAsia in terms of relief work? I know it's in its early hours, but typically AirAsia does contribute whenever natural disasters like this take place.
Yep. Well, we do have our AirAsia Foundation. Definitely, our leadership team is looking at it, especially that we're expanding our route network from Cebu beginning November 15. So hopefully, we'll be able to assist because it's actually a good time also because you'll be able to provide options for transportation for not only for Cebuanos, but for the Central Visayas and the Southern Philippines as well. So hopefully we'd be able to assist in whatever way we can and be able to help our Cebuano brothers and sisters.
What are you getting initially from the leadership team as you've spoken to them in the hours after the quake and as far as your November 15 relaunch is concerned? Because you've been away from Cebu as a hub for the past 9-10 years.
Actually,
and you're making a comeback on November 15th, just about a month from now.
Actually, it was just a temporary suspension from beginning January of this year. Last year, we were flying to about 7 routes out of Cebu. It's all systems green for us for the November 15 launch. Last week, we were also there. And we've met with our trade partners, with our media partners. Today, the priority really is to, of course, ensuring the safety of our staff in Cebu. Second is we've started selling tickets since September 3 for the launch. To us, Cebu is a very strategic hub. Why? Because it gives up. Every time you talk to a Cebuano, they would tell you that why do I have to go to Manila to fly direct to the world or to the rest of the destinations in ASEAN. So I think flying to Cebu, Kuala Lumpur will give opportunities for not only for Cebuanos, but of course, AirAsia as a group, we fly to about 136 destinations. That's across 256 routes. So that gives them the opportunity to fly to, say, Sydney, Perth, or Almaty in Kazakhstan, and at the same time that we're expanding our Cebu route network, we're also launching our Istanbul flights. So it could be really a good access for our Cebuano brothers and sisters, as well as the rest of Southern Philippines, to fly to the world.
But why now? I mean, AirAsia has had to recover as well from the post-pandemic scarring. I mean, I've spoken with Tony Fernandez at the height of the pandemic and when flights were just resuming. Why now and why Cebu?
Actually, it's a strategic move for us. Last year, of course, airlines world over experienced the supply chain issues, which limited us from getting our aircraft back from our maintenance, repair, and overhaul partners. So this year, last year, our focus was really to strengthen our Manila hub. This year, since we're adding another 2 aircraft, and it's going to be allocated to Cebu. Again, as mentioned to you, when we were doing the trade sessions from last week, everyone is so ecstatic about it because now they can fly to Kuala Lumpur, they can fly to Macau actually, which is a value-driven alternative to Hong Kong. I checked out the fares prior to going to the program. It's 2,500 pesos, Cathy, would you believe, if you fly to Macau. And it's only, what, an hour and a half from ferry or bus to Hong Kong. It's really a cheaper alternative. When you check, and I checked the flights going to Hong Kong from Manila, it's around 10 to 15,000 pesos. So imagine the savings and the opportunities that this this route expansion will bring.
So are you going to be flying one of those inaugural flights? The A320 or the NEO?
Yes, we're flying the A320 tomorrow. I'm flying actually to Cebu, and as a pilot tomorrow. But hopefully the resumption of flights from November 15 will continue to flourish. And because we're flying 14 times to Kuala Lumpur, 3 times weekly to Macau, and then for domestic, you have our feeder markets. So that's 18 times weekly to Davao. You have Iloilo at around 4 times weekly. And of course, the most important thing also is Caticlan, which is a leisure destination for us, 11 times weekly.
Well, be safe on that journey and keep us up to speed, will you? Steve,
yes,
thank
Cathy,
you so
thank
much.
you very much.
Pleasure.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. Steve Dailisan of AirAsia. Well, the NGCP has reported progress in restoring power after last night's quake. By early morning, 3 geothermal units in Leyte were back online, while several plants, including TVI, CEDC, and TPC Thermal, remain shut down. Of the 4 affected transmission lines, only the Calatrava-Magdugo line has been restored. Others in northern Cebu and Leyte are still out. On the ground, power has normalized in Panay, Negros, Cebu, and Bohol, with customers restored before 2 a.m. In Leyte, Samar, restoration is ongoing after multiple line and generator trips, with partial recovery routed through the Cebu-Bohol line. And before we go, congratulations are in order to our morning shows on One News, including ours. We have been recognized as national winners at the 2025 Asian Academy Creative Awards. Our business program, Money Talks, the one you're watching now, is named Philippine winner for Best News Program. While Gretchen Ho, our fellow kapatid, the host of Morning Matters, is the country's winner for the Best Factual Presenter. Money Talks and Gretchen Ho join the ranks of programs and hosts from BBC and Bloomberg. The 2025 Asian Academy Creative Awards ceremony will be held on December 4 in Singapore. Thank you so much for that support. Congratulations all. That is it for Money Talks. I am Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. here on One News. Have a great day ahead.